Hello and good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and it's live. My news up here at Desawa in Kanda. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I am Solis Rose Quarter. Look at the headlines for this evening.
By Deluxe Paid.
Police officers accused of sexual misconduct in South Sudan repatriated. Bring you details of that tonight here on News 360.
And 5 persons on trial in the Bantama gang rape case convicted.
And also speakers at Media General's Accra Dialogue propose amendments to be effected to make country civil service effective.
Later, we'll tell you the harrowing experience of how children trek in search of water for days in Gambuga in the northern region.
And in business tonight, modalities and directives for implementing Ghana's local content fund to be ready by the end of the year.
And on the foreign front, we'll be looking at Nigeria, where the planned increase in the minimum wage will not happen this September.
We'll bring you details of these and more tonight here on News 360. Remember, we're live also on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. To our first story this evening, members of the Ghana Formed Police Unit who were indicted in February this year over alleged sexual misconduct during peacekeeping duties in South Sudan have been repatriated. A team of FPU peacekeepers arrived in the country via a chartered aircraft at 1:30 Wednesday afternoon.
No official information was available on the arrival, and so details are scanty about the investigative findings, the number of personnel actually repatriated, and what will happen to them administratively. It will be recalled that 46 Ghanaian police peacekeepers were withdrawn from the operation zone of WOW by the United Nations mission in South Sudan for alleged gross sexual misconduct. They were taken to the capital of South Sudan after it emerged that the 46-man contingent was involved in sex trading with the internally displaced people pending further investigations. The Ghana Police Service, which requested an independent investigation into the allegation, is said to have completed its work awaiting judgment from the United Nations. The police administration would, however, not disclose its findings. Director General of Police Intelligence and Professional Standards, COP Kofi Boachi, last week only assured of their readiness to inform the public in due course, adding that the personnel involved are safe at post.
The Inspector General of Police sent high-powered delegation to South Sudan. They completed their investigations, but the police is awaiting the investigation from UN because they have to compare notes on the various investigations in order to have a complete and comprehensive report for you. After that is done, I know the Inspector General of Police will not hesitate to inform you of the results. But meanwhile, the policemen are still in South Sudan.
It therefore baffles many as to what has triggered the repatriation in less than a week after the assurance.
Well, still on issues regarding sexual misconduct, the Kumasi Circuit Court has convicted 5 persons accused of gang raping a teenager at Bantama, a suburb of Kumasi. One of the suspects, Ernest Asari, who the court established was not a juvenile, has been handed a 7-year jail term with hard labor. A report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
The 5 accused persons were all in court Wednesday to know their fate. Reading the verdict, Her Honor Comfort Tasiam said the court had established that one of the accused persons, Ernest Asari, was 20 years old. After pronouncing all the 5 guilty, the court sentenced Ernest Asari to 7 years in prison. The remaining 4, all minors, have been referred to a juvenile court for sentencing. They were convicted for defilement, conspiracy to commit crime, and abetment.
Per the law, the Juvenile Justice Act, if a child is a juvenile, the court of summary jurisdiction cannot sentence the juveniles. So 4 of them who were all juveniles were as per the Children's Act and the Juvenile Justice Act, they have to be remitted to the juvenile court for sentencing. So the boy who was 20 years was convicted and sentenced to 7 years minimum.
Counsel for the accused persons will be meeting with the court registrar to find out the juvenile court his clients have been referred to for sentencing.
Right after the judgment was delivered by the court, we went to the registry, but unfortunately the registrar of the court was not around. So we followed up. Maybe tomorrow we meet the registrar and then we know which of the juvenile courts that the juveniles will be sent for sentencing. As of now, we are waiting for a copy of the judgment from the court. And you know, as lawyers, we act on the instructions of our client. And here the boys are juvenile, so we meet the parents. If they give us go ahead, and then we look at the evidence in totality, definitely, if there's a need for us to appeal against the sentence or conviction, we will do that.
The 5 accused persons were arrested in December 2017 after a video of them gang raping a teenager went viral. 7 persons were allegedly involved in the act, of which 5 of them were arrested and processed before the court. The remaining 2 suspects are at large.
Some children in the Miom district of the northern region have no option but to eat supper between midnight and 1 a.m. owing to severe crisis in water. The mothers go searching for water and return late to cook. If Atibuka reports, the situation is affecting the overall development of the children in the area.
Children of all ages in the water search business trekking long distances. At Gambuga, Hassan and sister said they lost their little brother 2 days before the news team arrived, following the non-availability of water.
No. So now say I dim
She left her 3-month-old baby and went in search of water at about 2 a.m. She returned at about 7 a.m. to feed the baby and realized he had strangled himself with the cloth and died.
24 hours a day, you'd find girls and women going looking for water. In the northern region particularly, there's a serious problem because the water table is very low. Efforts at constructing boreholes, hand pumps have not been successful because you just go so deep you don't even hit water.
For them, it has been days without a bath.
They would develop what we call the metatis neglecta, which is a serious consequences of not bathing as a result of the sweat, fat deposition, and the dust in the environment. And this disease can harm them in the future by creating their skin to be a little bit rough and thick and dark.
But that is not their worry. From the energy-draining water search, cooking is done between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., by which time children are sleeping. Only a few stay awake to eat, with the majority sleeping on empty stomach. Their education is most affected as school attendance depends on the availability of water at home.
Children cannot go to school. When they do, there will be no water for them to drink when they are back.
The topography of the area is one of a hard one. Water retention is not very good in this area. So because of that, we want the engineers who will be doing the dams in our area to take that into consideration by giving us dams which have reservoirs that can keep water for long.
The children, together with their mothers, are asking government to fast-track its One Village, One Dam to relieve them of the burden.
Well, quite unfortunate scenes. I hope that our duty bearers are taking notice of that and more. Let's move away from that and go ahead to Parliament, where the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Owusu, says it is embarrassing for members of Parliament to only come to sign in and go back without taking part in parliamentary duties in the chamber. The Speaker was reacting to concerns on the floor of Parliament Wednesday about MPs' absenteeism.
Members of Parliament sit from Tuesday to Friday, and the time for the start of proceedings is 10 a.m. But sitting hardly starts at 10, and whenever proceedings begin, only a few members are usually present. TV3 has done quite a number of stories on MPs' absenteeism, yet the act persists. Some civil society groups have also raised concerns about the practice, as well as some MPs. On Wednesday, May 30, 2018, proceedings began a few minutes after 11 a.m. and the numbers were less than one-third. MP for Lambuse Kani, Edward Derry, could not help it and had to burst out.
Please, members should come and even listen to your prayers before they even go out and probably do other business. Mr. Speaker, look at the order paper. We have only one committee meeting, only one. And look at the House.
He asked the Speaker to intervene as they could no longer tolerate it, accusing both sides of the House. But MP for Dorma Central, Kweku Ajiman-Menu, tried to defend his colleagues.
30 honorary members have been marked absent with permission. Again, Mr. Speaker, we have as many as 38 other members who have been marked as absent.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu says the continuous practice undermines the public confidence in MPs.
Mr. Speaker, there has been times that you are compelled to sit like today, not the appropriate time of 10 because of requests from leadership sometimes to engage in other activities. But the question of quorum is a requirement of our standing orders which must be respected.
5 minutes after my colleague has raised it, significantly the number is improving. And I believe that if we give ourselves the next 10 minutes, many people will join us.
He added on May 29, the records showed only 45 MPs were present at the start of proceedings, but by close of proceedings, 207 names were captured in the records. The first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu, said it was embarrassing as some members only come to sign and go back.
When we didn't have officers, the only place we could be was at the cafeteria, and so we could always come in our numbers. I've observed since we had officers, people come in, sign in, and go and sit at the offices without coming to participate in the business of the House. Very clearly, the number over 200 that is registered in the proceeding yesterday were not in this chamber at any point in time.
Parliament's Standing Order 16 says a member shall not absent himself during a meeting for more than 15 sittings without the permission in writing to the Speaker. Any member infringing this order shall have his conduct referred to the Privileges Committee. This, the first Deputy Speaker said, most MPs are culpable.
But if you go by the record, indeed, some members have breached the Constitution and they probably ought not to continue to be members of the House.
A former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Raj, has proposed partnership between professional accountants and the audit service to investigate and detect fraud. Justice Francis Emil Short is confident the collaboration will ensure swift prosecution of offenders and also reduce mismanagement in the public service.
Justice Emil Short, who spoke at a forum organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, ICAG, in Accra, expressed concern about corruption in the public service and the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies, MMDAs. He recalled that in 2017, Ghana dropped by 3 points on the Global Corruption Perception Index, which he described as worrying. Although he acknowledged the setting up of the Special Prosecution Office is a good step going forward, Justice Emil Short was of a firm conviction that it will not be able to totally address corruption. The former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shrad, suggested the swift passage of the Right to Information Bill to complement the work of the Special Prosecutor. However, a major concern to Justice Samuel Short has to do with financial misappropriation captured in the 2016 Auditor General's report. Justice Samuel Short therefore charged professional accountants to support the audit service in the fight against corruption.
The most effective anti-fraud and anti-corruption framework, and if needed, an integrated corruption prevention and control strategy that will not only help prevent and identify and respond to potential cases of fraud and corruption, but will help protect the organization's reputation, raise overall levels of governance and integrity, and improve organizational efficacy.
A Supreme Court Judge, Justice William Atuguba, was disturbed corruption could undermine the progress of the country.
That all positions of power are positions of trust and accountability to the people who are the owners of our positions, the structures, and the entirety of Ghana.
President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, ICAG, Christian Soti, advocated for support for the work of the Special Prosecutor.
Our leaders and those we have put in positions of trust, failing us, people who we deem responsible enough to have been entrusted with the safety, security, and responsibility of our national assets and resources, are rather those who make the headlines as breaching the trust and indulge in corrupt practices. And it is not the ordinary man on the street.
The forum was themed Professional Collaboration Against Corruption in Ghana.
Well, let's do some other stories. And Reginald Seshi Brown has been granted bail after signing a bond to be of good behavior. The student of the University of Ghana Medical School was arrested Wednesday morning for interrupting the First Lady, who was addressing a gathering at a sword cutting ceremony at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
This is what happened in the mid-morning of Wednesday, May 30, 2018. The First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, was delivering a speech at a sword-cutting ceremony for the construction of a pediatric intensive care unit at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Few minutes into the ceremony, a young man neatly and smartly dressed in suit walked straight towards the First Lady, holding up an A4 sheet with the inscription #OpenUGMC now. He was pushed aside by the security detail, who handed him to the Kolebu security guards.
Only about, like the Kofonochi mother and baby and pediatric intensive care units. We expect to finish this facility in record time.
The program continued smoothly until there were social media reports suggesting the young man had been detained at the Kolebu police station. Following up at the station, we were told the investigating team had taken him to the event grounds to ascertain what really happened. According to the crime officer, there were no charges against him, as the Kolebu staff who brought him to the station did not give any statement. They have also refused to follow the case or assist in the investigation, asking the police to drop the case. The suspect at this point was asked to give his own statement, after which he would be granted bail, which he refused. Interacting with him, he explained he had earlier given a statement and that he was being asked to give a caution statement, which he would not give until advised to do so by his lawyer. He is later reported to have signed a bond and was granted bail to report back on Friday.
Well, on MTN Video Reports this evening, our citizen journalist Manche Akwete is reporting on the deplorable state of Okra Kojo Health Facility in the Eastern region.
Okra Kojo Health Facility. It was built in 1962 by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and you can already see the paintings are peeling off. In fact, Those in charge here tell me that since 1962, no proper renovation works has gone on here. Look at the walls, very dilapidated. This is a maternity. Look at the floors, look at the ceiling. The whole place stinks with feces from bats. It also serves as a breeding place for reptiles. This is their water tank. This is where they store water to run the facility. I am Manche Akwete, reporting for TV3.
All right, you're still tuned into News 360. We'll be right back with some more news after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to News 360 and now to some business news, and we'll start off from the mining sector where President Akufo-Addo has charged mining companies to invest in communities they operate in to improve the living standards of their people. Speaking at the 12th West African Mining and Power Conference in Accra, the president again called for the engagement of more local mining companies in the sector to build their capacities.
The West African Mining and Power Conference, an exhibition, is a forum which brings together senior government representatives, key industry executives and stakeholders from across the sub-region to discuss policy, legislation and challenges in the mining sector. President of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Kwame Addo Kufuor, called for reforms in the laws governing revenue generation in the sector to help address challenges.
The Chamber is fully appreciative of government's objective of enhancing the mining sector's contribution to national development. This is also aligned with the Africa Mining Vision and its aim for a knowledge-driven Africa mining sector that catalyzes and contributes to broad-based growth and development. This vision is best achieved by all key players working together in a spirit of partnership, trust, and transparency.
President Akufo-Addo bemoaned the state of communities where mining operations are carried out and called for improvement in living conditions.
Why is Obuasi not the most beautiful city in Ghana or the world if it hosts the richest gold mine? Why do Takwa and Prestea not look like the golden towns they are? And why does Akwete's appearance not reflect anything about the diamonds that have been taken from its soils all these years? The distressed state of mining communities, in which mining companies operate, is nothing short of a disgrace. And we must work to change the situation.
He again urged the giants in the mining sector to engage local mining companies in order to build their capacities.
We are determined to establish a new paradigm of an integrated mining industry to propel local manufacturing. The value chain of mining has huge potential for job creation, and we intend to tap into it to develop our economy. We cannot and should not continue to be merely exporters of raw materials to other countries. And I'm calling on all players in the sector to work with us to deepen the integration of the mining sector with the non-mineral sectors of the economy.
The theme for the three-day conference and exhibition is a responsible and sustainable mining industry, a partner for national development.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has charged mining companies operating in Ghana to begin producing locally the inputs they import. Speaking at the 2018 West African Mining and Power Conference in Accra, the president urged entrepreneurs to work with government to identify opportunities to enhance job creation.
A large amount of spending by mining companies leaks from the domestic economy through the importation of several tools and equipment which Ghana has the capacity to produce. It is time to reverse this trend. Ghanaian entrepreneurs must be encouraged to work with the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Chamber to identify opportunities in the value chain where indigenous companies can manufacture these products locally. I know that mining inputs such as caustic soda, activated carbon, and grinding media can be produced locally if businesses produce at competitive prices, in the needed quantities, and the right quality. The readily available raw materials for some of the input means that there is great potential for interested observers.
Director of Special Services at the Petroleum Commission, Kweku Boateng, has hinted modalities and directives for implementing the country's local content fund will be ready by the end of the year. The fund is expected to strengthen involvement of indigenous companies and ultimately increase the proportion of total activities in the oil and gas sector carried out by local operators. We'll be bringing you more details on this particular story in our subsequent bulletins. But let's move away from that and do some other business news, where the managing director of the Ghana Stock Exchange says MTN listing on the exchange is a major step in tackling the liquidity problems faced by the exchange. According to Kofi Yamwa, if at least 1 million of MTN's 17 million subscribers become investors on the exchange, it will be a giant leap in making the Accra Bourse a liquid one.
The Ghana Stock Exchange is one of the best performing stock markets among 7 African stock markets as at the end of the first quarter of 2018. The GSC Composite Index return year-to-date stands at 27.70%, whereas the Financial Stock Index is at 29.71% year-to-date. Total market capitalization stands at 65 billion cedis. But a key challenge which has faced the Ghana Stock Exchange has to do with the issue of liquidity. For a market to be considered as liquid, shares should be able to be swiftly sold with negligible loss of value and availability of ready and willing buyers and sellers at all times. Speaking at the MTN IPO launch in Accra on Tuesday, Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Kofi Yamwa, believed MTN listing will go a long way to solve the issue of liquidity on the exchange. This, he says, is because MTN is floating some 4.6 billion shares at 70 pesos, and also foreign participation is limited to 5%.
MTN has more than 17 million phone subscribers. That, by my estimation, means that we there can say a target of 1 million retail investors should come to this market under this offer. We want to work towards that goal. And that in itself will bring so much liquidity to this market that we have always been accused of lacking. I believe that we stand ready to assist MTN achieve this liquidity target so that going forward, this market will really have come of age in terms of liquidity.
The Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta, expressed similar sentiments.
The significant part is that it's a multinational which is sort of retail-oriented and therefore deeply in the fabric of the country. And so that's pervasive and cuts across. And that, I think, is going to draw in a lot more Ghanaians to participate on the exchange, which is important because I think the concept of investing and building a fortune for the future is good. And getting more people invested in the capital markets also helps of attracting foreign investors to believe that there's liquidity in our market and therefore they'll participate.
Well, that's all for business news this evening. For more news updates, visit www.3news.com. Over to you, Alfred, for more updates.
That's the Accra dialogue that took place here at TV3 a few hours ago. Chief of Staff under former President Kojo Mpiani says he agrees with the practice where the President and his team appoint officers to the civil service. The former Chief of Staff argues since presidents are not a receptacle of wisdom and did not also know it all. They need people who could help in achieving their promises. But Prosper Bani, also a former chief of staff, disagreed, insisting the practice could spell doom for governance. Both speakers were guests at Media Journal's Accra Dialogue under the theme Executing the President's Mandate, the Role of Civil Service.
To blame the practitioners alone for this state of affairs? To me, the answer is a big no. Let's take one critical cardinal principle of any good civil service: political neutrality and efficiency. My experience tells me the civil service is neither politically neutral nor efficient. Neutrality does not mean that members should not have political opinion. After all, they vote. Ladies and gentlemen, even the Electoral Commission members who supervise elections also vote. This is something we cannot run away from. Every president will appoint people from outside the civil service to come and help the president. He will have to get the people around him who share his opinion. Don't let us forget that a president is not a superhuman. Definitely he should have people around him, people he trusts, who can help him to determine and look at the issues coming to enable him take decisions for the benefit of the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's disabuse our minds about people who are coming in to work in the office of the president. It will go on, and I support that it should continue to go on.
Where appointees from government begin to take the substantive positions of civil servants, then we have issues. If you want to be a civil servant, go through the civil servant programs. You need to be trained because their functions are sensitive, nervous, tricky, and dependent. So if you bring somebody for a short period to come and become director of a ministry with reference to the fundamental theory of Max Weber, which established the civil service of this country, we will be creating a situation where there will be significant dislocation between government and the people, delivery of service to the people.
The function assigned to presidential staffers is so vague. Now, these were the words of local government expert Professor Ato Ahoy, who believes the broad interpretation of the Presidential Office Act 1993, Act 463, is the reason for the continuous confusion amongst presidential appointees and civil servants.
There's a presidential office which is regulated by the Presidential Office Act of 1993. Act 463. And that is where the problem is. All the suggestions that have been made, they are true, but they are actually covered under the Presidential Office Act. Except that it is an act that is so bad, but presidents have found it so useful that nobody has talked about revising or amending the act. The function of the presidential office is to provide the president and the vice president such services as they may require for the efficient and effective performance of the executive functions of the president and vice president under the Constitution and any other law. That is all their function. Now, if you don't take you will interpret this so broadly as to cover everything that the civil service and the public services do. And the absence of the definition of the executive functions for which the presidential staff are to provide services, as I said, creates serious overlaps and duplications between their functions and those of the civil and local government services. Now, these problems create the following, or have the following consequences. First of all, it can lead to what is called a polycracy, which is an over-bloated government. When a government is made up of too many people, you get what is called a polycracy. It can also lead to profligacy, which is an excessively expensive government, because an over-bloated government is necessarily an expensive government. It lays the foundation for nepotism, which is a government of relatives. It is also a recipe for cronyism, which is a government of friends. And it is a recipe for patronage, which is a government of the sponsors of the president's campaign. It even leads to what is called a kakistocracy, which is a government of the unqualified people.
Okay, so that was Professor Kwame Ahoy's submission at the Accra Dialogue a couple of hours ago here at the Executive Theatre at TV3. But let's still stay a bit on this because the former rector of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, and member of the Council of Board of the Finance Ministry, Professor Stephen Adey, says that he actually stands by his accusation of former presidents and governments gone by with the opinion that President Mahama failed in a leadership style and that the level of corruption was on the ascendancy under Mahama and Mr. Arthur government. Professor Adey said professionally, one has to criticize despite their political lineage, agreeing that his opinion was right.
Yes, under Mahama, I never made a statement. Why? Because I know it's difficult to govern. And the statement I made, which I still stand by, were three. That at a certain point, he has led Ghana down on quality of leadership. You may agree or disagree, but professional, that's what I came to. Two, I think that corruption, which has been with us, was on the ascendancy. And thirdly, I felt that some appointments were wrong and not in the interest of Ghana. But I never opened my mouth for 2 years. Let Akufo-Addo do the same. And some citizen vigilantes will talk. But I will never talk in the first year of a government trying to find its feet with an agenda which I myself have to understand.
Well, if you missed out on the Accra Dialogue, which was actually showed live on TV3, you can go on to TV3's Facebook page, that's TV3 Ghana, and also on YouTube, and you can watch that full dialogue and the presentations by the various speakers. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Do stay.
Right, and it's now time for some international news. And a planned increase in Nigeria's minimum wage will not happen this September. Now, Nigeria's Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, said his committee established to look into the issue in 2017 will only conclude its work in September.
Now, Malian migrant Mamadou Gassama, who climbed 4 stories to save a child, has begun training as a fire service personnel following a directive by French President Emmanuel Macron.
Mamadou Gassama has been enlisted into the France Fire Service after the directives from the French President Emmanuel Macron. The now France citizen was held up in a meeting for hours with the President of Mali, trying to convince him to come back to Mali and join the Malian military as a general. Mr. Gassama, however, refused and decided to stay in France and work as a fire personnel with the fire department in Paris.
Well, it's now time for some entertainment news with Miriam.
Hello there and good evening. Let's do some entertainment news. We'll start with season 9 of Talented Kids. The winner, Samuel Owusu, and the first runner-up, Penel Dodu, have signed on the Heritage Fund with First Bank, the leading sponsor of the kids' reality show. The fund is an investment for the educational needs for the kids.
The winner took home 15,000 cedis, whilst the first runner-up won a cash prize of 10,000 cedis as educational fund. The Director of Business Development of First Bank, Gordon P.D. Derry, said it is important to invest in the future of children.
And investment has to do with the future. If you want to invest, you are not interested in gaining it now. And so you must look to the future. And so we've always looked to the future with our kids. And with that in mind, we've developed products that have a long-term vision in mind, preparing you towards, either an education, either a project, or any lifestyle that you would want to engage in the future.
He explained how the fund can be assessed.
What we are bringing on is a seed fund. And so for the 15,000, there's going to be that amount in the account from today. So that's the seed fund, and that's going to grow. So in the next 3 years, you don't expect to see 15,000. You expect to see more.
The winner and runner-up of the show expressed their excitement.
I think this kind of educational fund will help us in the future and in our education as well, because we are not going to struggle to get money. And I thank the First Bank Financial Services for giving us this platform.
It's going to help us in the future. We will not be too disturbed about who is going to fund our education. I think it will be very helpful and useful to us.
The custodians thanked Media General and First Bank for securing the future of the children.
It's good that First Bank is actually focused on this talents education. It's very, very, very good.
Investing into a child's future is very, very, very important. And First Bank has taken the step and they've invested into this talent. And we are hoping that, as they've explained to us today, this fund is going to grow so that we can use it for their education and other things that we feel that would help them.
Now, away from talented kids, UK-based Ghanaian music duo Reggie and Boli were at the Jubilee House to pay a courtesy call on the president. While applauding their exploits, President Akufo-Addo tasked the celebrated entertainers to project the Ghanaian identity in their acts and work towards making Ghana the ideal tourism destination in Africa. Owosu Warai has a report for us.
Meeting the president was an honor and a source of motivation to Reggie and Boli.
Thanks very much for encouraging us.
Yes, I remember telling Reggie that this is a great deal of motivation and we need to keep pushing hard because you never know who's watching.
While patting them on the back for making positive inroads internationally, the president believed a lot has to be done to endear Ghana to the rest of the world. As global entertainers, the president is convinced Reggie and Boli have a major role to play in making Ghana an enviable tourism destination.
We think there's a lot of opportunity for us.
Exactly.
In Ghana, a brand that is out there for people to be able to identify and work with. Yes. I think that despite everything, we're not as well known as we should be. Exactly. The country and the things that are happening here. And the potential of the people is not well known, and I think we should use these occasions to popularize the Ghana brand.
The tourism ambassadors expressed their willingness to work hard to put Ghana on the world map. The group, however, called for effective collaboration and support from government to realize the dream.
If you compare Ghana to the UK, for instance, because the systems and structures over there really work, so artists are able to represent the country in so many other countries because the labels and everything is set, and that's what we are also hoping that.
And that's what we have to work towards. Exactly. That's what we have to work towards. Yeah. But we need the understanding, the cooperation, and the buy-in of people like you, so that they can work.
The 2015 X Factor first runner-up were also concerned about the need to put the needed structures in place to ensure an effective royalty collection system.
In Ghana, the royalty collection system doesn't really work, and we hope to, make it work in the future.
Okay.
Well, and on that Reggie and Bowley note, that's how we end entertainment news here on News 360. And Alfred tells me that Reggie was actually your classmate.
My classmate.
I heard that you used to rap yourself as well.
Academy.
Okay.
He's called rap scientist.
One of these days, you should try a few lines of rapping that would be entertainment segment.
But not on the news.
I'm talking to you.
Let's end the news now. It's News 360. My name is Solis Rose Kodemi. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, my name is Alfred Akansi. Remember, News at 10 simulcast on 3FM. Have a good evening.
Did you just do that? I know.